Peace, family. It's Asmar Bilal here with Secure Tomorrows, where we talk about what happens after the lights, after the cheers, and how athletes build real legacy outside of the game. We're not here to talk stats. We're here to talk strategy, because the lights fade, the cheers stops, the phone might go silent, but your story doesn't end here. This is where we rebuild. This is Secure Tomorrows. Today's guest, man, he's the evidence that you don't have to make it to the NFL in order to win. He didn't play D1, he didn't play professionally, but he still retired at the age of 37 years old. That's the dream. He leveraged that same mindset and discipline that he built training after the league and turned it into a 7-figure business in life insurance. That's right, you probably seen a 1099 with $1 million. Not salary, not a contract, but commissions. He's the living proof that athletes have everything that they need in order to build a legacy. They just need the right vehicle.
Right.
James Cunningham, welcome.
Glad to have you, bro. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for having me.
And so let's rewind. I know we just kind of talked about that dream, right? We know you had the dream, you had the vision, you was grinding, you was working, you was doing everything right. What did it feel like in that moment to kind of chase and know exactly what you wanted and not be able to make it to that next level? Right? We know a lot of athletes get that gut punch and don't really talk about it. So how was that for you when that moment happened?
So for me, going back to when I really think back of 2006, 2007. So I graduated college in 2006. Mm-hmm. And I spent that whole year from 2006, once I graduated, to 2007. And I'm working, training, and I'm just trying to I'm betting on me that
right.
I should be able to do what's necessary. But, coming from a small school where the opportunity to go to the next level is not as high as when playing at Notre Dame, for example.
Yeah.
I will say that, I thought I prepared myself well enough to be able, when I got myself in that room, potentially have an opportunity to make it. Mm-hmm. But it don't work the way you think it worked. Even a guy that gets drafted in the first round sometimes won't even make a roster,
Truly.
So I did all I thought that I was supposed to do, and unfortunately it didn't work out for me, and I would say I was blessed that the opportunity that I came about with insurance came at the right time, because if it would have came later, I think I would have went into a more of a deeper, darker period of what am I supposed to do now? Because we talked about this earlier, man. You get so wrapped up in your identity around playing ball or whatever sport for a lot of people. And, I think I was a little bit more fortunate than somebody who had a bigger gap between this is done, what do I do now? I literally just got done doing these tryouts, and I ended up being forced to have to figure out something because my bills wasn't slowing down.
Right.
And I didn't have a lot of bills, but I had enough to where I got to get a job. I got to make some money. I got to pay these little small bills. So I came across the opportunity, and I was not anticipating having a long career doing anything that I ended up doing. It was supposed to be temporary. It was supposed to be, I come in this place, I use this to make some money, and then in some period of time, in a short period of time, somebody's going to call me, and I'll go and make that team, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't work out that way. I didn't really get a call. The crazy part is I didn't get a call until I moved to Indianapolis when I got promoted to come out here and start up the agency from scratch. So that was over 3.5 years after the fact.
Wow.
So I pretty much came across a point where, I started, the intention was I need to make some money, started making way more money I've ever thought I could make in a profession. And honestly, I felt like I was already in the league, after 2 months of doing it. I went through some challenges like getting started, but by the time I got going into it, after 2 months, I'm making more money than I ever thought. I'm going downtown. I'm popping bottles like I got drafted, downtown in the clubs, glasses on, feeling like I'm in my rookie year, which I was in my rookie year. And I didn't really know much about insurance and what it could do, but I would say, I mean, I know we're going to talk a lot about this topic and this subject, but I would not say I went through a really deep, dark period because I came across the opportunity in a good time frame. Versus somebody who, they just get done playing and it goes, it's a long period of time, months and sometimes even years before finding something that will give them that same, fulfillment, if you want to call it that. But
of course, when you get done training, you got an expectation or a hope that you're going to make it into the league. And a lot of this, what this is about is, you mentioned it, a lot of athletes' identity get wrapped up into the sports. Their goal isn't to extract the principles from sports and bring it into business. Their goal is, it's the end all be all. I'm going to make it to the league and that's going to be it. So when it's all said and done, once you receive the applaud, the accolades from being an athlete, and then it finishes, you feel like that's all you're about. And maybe your friends and family might even make it about that as well. So for you, I know for you, did you have truly. Did you have a expectation of making it, or did you kind of know early on before the season and stuff ended?
Yes and no, because, the way I grew up, I didn't really have anybody that I can look to male-wise. And I'm like, I want to be like you when I grow up. I see that you went to school, you obtained this degree, you went into this field, and you're doing this in your profession, and it looks, pleasing to me, and I want to follow in those footsteps. No, I mean, my mom is my rock, and I think she set a great example for me and my siblings of, how to be an entrepreneur. She did hair growing up, and how to build something from scratch. So I learned so many principles from her. But as far as the males, I learned what not to do, but having the pressure, I think I had more pressure from my community of people who would tell me, yeah, you're the one, you're going to make it out. And I had, some of the OGs looking out for me, making sure I didn't get in trouble and, just tried to stay on the straight and narrow. And I was one of those kids that went to a private school living in the inner city. So, they kind of wanted to make sure you didn't go down this path and you can make it out. I had a few other people, in the neighborhood too, that saw something in me and believed in me. And we can talk about, how, and Diane Zelmer is her name. She actually connected me with my sponsors who ended up paying for my high school tuition that I was able to go to the school I went to. If it wasn't for her recommending them, I wouldn't have been able to continue there, and I would have had to go to the school that I was assigned to, and it would have been bad, But
did you come from a football school?
So yeah, my height. Well, we got a lot. We got more state championships in Ohio than any school. St. Ed's.
Okay.
When I went there, we were building it up. So I'm proud to say I was part of that culture, that tenure, that class that really started to revamp the football within the school. Because prior to that, we were more known for, being like national champion, state champion, powerhouse wrestling school, which they still are to this day. I mean, but football, we won some. I think we just came off of, back-to-back state championships.
Oh, wow.
We didn't win it this past year, but previous 3 years before that. So dynasty, man. And we were part of building that culture, going all the way back to, I graduated 2002. But I think I felt more pressure. Not my mom, my sisters, my family didn't really put pressure on me to make it. I think I felt more pressure from my community. Wanting to be a good example, a role model for the young kids in the community of, this is what's possible. You do this, you can do that, But at the same token, it's like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was possible. All I knew was, man, if I'm gonna get up out of here, it's gonna have to be sports. It's got to be sports.
That's usually the case.
I attempted basketball, but that didn't work out. I wasn't good enough for our high school team, and that's why I ended up playing football. And I ran track too. So I would say the pressure, man. I felt more pressure from the community versus like the household and the family.
So from the community, and then for you, so a lot of times, of course, as I mentioned already, they pursue it. It's year round. You hustling, you grinding, you working. Some people, some athletes, truthfully, school is about going, playing football. It's not even about the education. It's to make it to the league. So when it's over, you see a lot of athletes, I mean, they're broken spirited at that point when they're not making it. So did you ever have that dark moment?
I did.
Where you were just like wondering who you are identity wise or what was next for you?
I did. You know, it occurred as my bills started to pile up and I'm getting broke. And I had to hurry up and figure something out. And I immediately, I was never the smartest, but my mom always told me closed mouths don't get fed. So as that was starting to happen, once I got done with those tryouts, I'm like, all right, I got to get this figured out because I don't have a job. Bills are still piling up and my car is about to get repossessed. And if that thing would have happened, life would be completely different because if you go without a vehicle, you can't go from here to there, So like, I'm talking like, man, I was behind on a lot of stuff and I had to hurry up and get going and making some money. So I used some common sense and I ended up driving back down to my school and I met with the head of our career services department. Rebecca Doak is her name. She's no longer there, but she was able to guide me of what I could do moving forward. And so she was like, what did you end up doing? Do you want to do something similar? And she was trying her hardest to help guide me to find something where she knew I would thrive. I worked at, Wells Fargo Financial my first year out of college.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And when I took that position, the plan was I'm gonna work there because I came from a small D3 school, man. I mean, we're a powerhouse program in our division respectively, but we were national champions and all that stuff. But you coming from D3, man, you have to do some crazy numbers to come out and get to the league.
You went to Mount Union?
Mount Union, yeah. Mount
that's
Union.
A popular one.
Yeah, but it's how many people got drafted from there? Like at this point, it's 2.
Oh wow. Okay.
I believe so. It was like 2, but yeah, man, I was like, let me get my butt in the car and drive down and like talk to her. So, I sat down with her and she recommended a few opportunities that were up the alley of what I was looking for. And, I ended up applying, and found the opportunity. But during that time frame, I was able to get a call back in a short period of time. I literally, Nick Zangardi called my resume. I'm so thankful for him, man. I owe Nick so much because he didn't have to call my resume.
You remember the name?
Yeah, and Nick was an alumni, so it was like one of those alumni association type things where they post a job, you apply, you're an alumni, so there's a connection there. And everybody knows it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? So I didn't personally know him, but we went to the same school. We graduated from the same school, so he took a shot with me, man. He called my resume and he called me in, and I saw enough, and I came in and I tried my hardest to present myself so I can get presented the opportunity, and the rest is history. It didn't take long, for my resume to be called, go in and interview, and then basically accept the opportunity, move forward, start making money within a 2-3 month period, and you start forgetting a lot of the stuff that you were thinking about. When it comes to that thought of what do I do, But I did go through that. It was temporary as I'm looking at my bills pile up and no money's coming in, But I got in that car and I went back down to Mount Union and I talked to Rebecca Doak and she got me right on track,
Right.
And it's crazy, man, because I told her this too. They did not want us to pursue anything that was independent contractor related, sales related, insurance, anything that would have met those criteria, they would have been against it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know it was going to be insurance. I thought it was something completely different. And I'm happy I didn't know because I did an internship before graduating, and it did not leave a good taste in my mouth of insurance. And I didn't understand that every insurance company is not going to have the same business model, same process. Mm-hmm. It's not whatever, right? But yeah, man. I mean, I was blessed that I was able to sit down with her, and she was able to kind of reroute me, and I was able to get my foot in the door and then take it from there. Within 90 days from submitting my resume, I was able to, start making money, and it was more money I've ever made in my life. So, you're at a crossroads at that point of, what do I do? And I had that moment. I had that moment where I'm sitting down at my mother's kitchen table trying to figure out, okay, do I want to continue to try and pursue this dream, this goal of trying to be a professional athlete, or do I put all my eggs in this basket? I go all in here. On a T chart, I wrote this opportunity here and the NFL over there. And it was way more positives over here. And I was confident because I was at the right place and right time with the right people who could show me the way. Because if you have the will, right, man, if you have the will to do the work, you got the mindset, you already been through some of the stuff that when you're an athlete, you're prepared for life. Because life ain't going to be easy. You're going to get punched in the mouth. You're going to get back up. And that's what you're going to have to do, especially when you play football, right? So, man, and
just
like
being able to transfer that
it's
over.
Crazy. I would have never thought that was the opportunity I was walking into, you know? So yes, I went through that period, but it wasn't that long, you know, and probably could have been longer if I would have sat on my butt and not, you know, tried to figure something out.
Understood.
You know?
So perfect. So, I mean, the end of it, of course, right, will have you down, but also the compounding effect of, right, we got some stuff that need to get paid.
Right.
We got a car that got to get paid. We got to get rolling. So I understand that. But let's talk about it. I know you say you got into it and started making some money. So life insurance, that's not a sexy industry. You know what I'm saying? Like most people, when they see life insurance, they're not thinking, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
So just talk about life insurance a little bit and how you felt about when you first heard it. And was it something you even wanted to do?
So when I first heard about life insurance, it was, remember, like I said, it was through the internship that it was a guy who I played football with. And he's done very well. He was with another company. But their process of how they do what they do cold calling, you know, so you got to work your own market. I don't come from a market of anybody to be worked, you know, that want to buy some insurance. So, you know, I tried my hardest to go through that internship experience, but it just didn't work out. And it left a taste in my mouth. I was like, man, I'm not trying to deal with anything insurance related. So that's why I said, like, when I applied, if I would have known it was going to be in the financial services industry, I would have not even went in for the interview. And I'm so happy the job description was clean enough to where it was confusing for me. And I didn't even realize like it was going to be financial. I thought I was literally going to be talking to teachers, policemen, firefighters, and talking about benefits, which we were, but you know, it was a sales process going on too. Right. So, man, like that was the first time I was ever exposed to insurance, and there was nothing about that I was like, I want to do. I didn't see a long future career doing that. I didn't understand the opportunity, the possibilities. I think the biggest thing, that when you talk about an opportunity that's transformational, life-changing, is the relationships you can build, the impacts you can have, the people you will meet, just how it'll transform you as a whole from person inside out, right? And man, that's the most priceless thing I was able to get out of it. But no, it was not one of those things where I'm like, let's go. What? Insurance? Sign me up. Like, nah, this is the last thing I was trying to do. But when I came into it, man, you see people and I'm like, especially when you play sports, you're like, if this dude can do this, I know I can do this, right? And nothing against anybody, what they've done and accomplished, but if you have that in you, it's like, okay, that confidence, which is a character trait of anyone who has success, they possess it. They have confidence in themselves. Because you're dealing with people and you got to be able to present that product and you have to be confident in your presenting ability, right? But, so I was confident in what I could do. I just needed somebody to show me how to do it.
Right. Just need the vehicle.
Right, and that's what it is. I didn't realize the vehicle, man. The vehicle is truly life-changing where you're able to like serve other people with this product and you're paid over and over and over again. Lifetime, as long as they're paying on it. And when I finally started to understand like the industry outside of the products, the demographics of, the type of people we deal with, all that good stuff. I'm like, man, like this is a recession, depression proof industry because people die every single day and people are born every single day. So like the need is never going to go away.
Right.
And then I started to do my own research of like, okay, so how many millionaires are actually in this industry? And I'm looking at these other industries. I'm like comparing it to the league. I'm like, okay, is this many players in the league? I mean, you actually would think every player is a millionaire, and contracts are different nowadays, but That's not always the case.
Truly.
And there's only so many people on that roster. So there's limitations. So like thinking to myself, like I can actually have more control of my destiny where there's no limitation on what I can earn, what I could do, what I can achieve. So I was like, man, and that's one of them check marks when I was comparing and contrasting. Like I can control my own destiny and I can get paid over and over and over again. I don't have to worry about like CTE, getting injured, getting traded. I can have true control of my destiny. Right. So like all those things truly like stood out to me once I started to understand. And there's more millionaires in this industry than any industry in the world.
And I speak on that. It's crazy. Speak a lot of in sports.
Yeah.
You're at the mercy of a lot of things. You're at the mercy of a coach, a GM, injury. There's many things that kind of dictate your future in it. And as you kind of mentioned with this is a vehicle where you're able to write your own destiny.
Right.
And that. But let's hit back on this. I know one of the things that you mentioned was you had that same confidence, right, and was able to just bring that over. So a lot of it is transferable skills. I don't know if you 100%. Ever seen. So there's a movie called Sinners, and the guy.
I wanted to go see
Ryan.
it. We didn't see it.
You didn't see it?
No,
okay, you gotta check it out. But I seen an interview he was doing. His name is Ryan Coogler, and he speaks about when he played sports, that work ethic of working half days, right, and having 2-a-day practices and stuff like that. He was just able to transfer that over. So when it came into the industry, it was just about being able to transfer over the same skills that he was cultivating and developing in sport into the industry. So if you could just speak on that, how was it transitioning into life insurance? At this point, it was just a vehicle, but now it's on you.
Right. It was a vehicle, so it's like I had the will set, I had the mindset, I had to learn the skill set. But I can tell you when we talk about transferable skills, man, like, it's interesting, you go through, if you play sports in college, right? Mm-hmm. You're a full-time student. I played 2 sports. I did football and track. So imagine like you're juggling that like all year round and you're trying to graduate on time, and if you're trying to, juggle being a boyfriend or somebody, all other stuff,
all the others.
So like my routine of what my day in life looked like, it was revolved around something. So I was like, I developed this routine way of living, and I didn't realize how much that was going to benefit me in the future. Mm-hmm. And I promise you, during the time when I had to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, we got these workouts we got to do, they sucked. They sucked while you were doing it. They sucked having to go to it, But when I think back and I look back like, okay, we went through all that stuff, and like that's how I felt then. The transition of coming into an industry where when I started, we were working 7 days a week. When I went through the interview process, I didn't know it was like that. If I would have known that, I probably wouldn't have took the job either, because I was used to 9 to 5 when I worked at Wells Fargo. So we came in, we worked 7 days a week. Sunday we're in the office, Monday we're in the office, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we're in the field, we're doing applications, knocking on people's doors, sitting in random people's houses. Friday we're back in the office, Saturday in the field. And I'm so happy I came into that. It was so interesting seeing people struggle with this. I'm talking talent, people who are way more talented than me that should have ran laps around me with their life experience or skill set that they were bringing into the equation. But because I was groomed, when you play sports like that in college, what was required, the work and just the nonstop of, we've talked about this before too, where, you really just got to work half days. And people are like, what's half days? And it's not half of 8 hours, it's half of a day, 12 hours, right? Working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was already used to that. I was already putting in a lot of hours as a student athlete. So it was easier for me to be able to adjust to the structured schedule. And I think it was also easier for me too, being 23, not married, no kids. So I didn't have other things pulling to me. So I could literally put all my time and energy into making this thing work, but I saw so many people just fall through the cracks and just didn't make it, man. And you've heard this saying, it's all about, you gotta be the last man standing. And that goes for anything in life, man. And I know that because I was prepared from the typical daily routine over those 4+ years. And, I would say a little bit of that same type of structure going all the way back to high school, because I went to a college prep school and we prepared, you know, like we were going to already be in college. So I was groomed to have that structure of life that it was nothing to me. It was like, man,
You already had the foundation.
like, what? That's all I got to do?
Yeah.
Like, this is nothing, you know? Or other people were like, imagine going from I'm only used to working 40 hours to now I got to put in
half days.
Yeah, like that's a lot of energy,
right.
You know? And if I'm twice my age, it's going to be hard, especially if you ain't taking care of yourself. So I was so used to continue to keep up with the routine of, in my mind, I'm still going to go pro. Somebody going to call me. I'm going to go try and make the team. So still worked out and all that stuff. I never stopped working out. Still training, almost like ready to get out there. Although if I get out there, I'm pulling the hamstring in two strides, you know.
Right.
But yeah, man, it was, for me, it was nothing. But I saw so many people struggle with that because they hadn't had that upbringing of, you know,
the training.
Yeah. And so, man, it sucked, you know, going all the way back to school, man. Those days, it was not fun, but it was very beneficial for me, you know. And I know that that's one of the transferable skills that, you know, people sometimes, athletes might undervalue as they're, you know, going through it, of how it's going to benefit them in the future. And I know I did. I didn't look at it like, man, this is going to benefit me in the future, but for sure.
But it was. I mean, it's definitely invaluable, right? It's gonna.
You can't put a price on that.
You can't put a price on it. So yeah. So I mean, let's talk about this then. So when you think about it, people are willing to put in that work. In sport, I put in the work. I was working half days. I'm willing to do it because of the reward.
Right.
So I know that you mentioned that you kind of got into this space, and months in, we start making some money. Mm-hmm. So of course, not only are you working, they say the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. But you was willing to labor. You was willing to put in that work. And I can tell, right, as we know, the harvest was plentiful indeed. But talk about those months coming in, like when it started making sense for you financially and you start actually reaping, right, what you were sowing.
I remember when I sat through my first, you know, team huddle, right? And I see Chris Vasu. You see this? I remember you, man. He was a top producer for the week, walking around with a book bag on, and I'm like, if this dude can do this, I know I can do this. So I see this guy make like a $3,000 a week paycheck, and he just made it seem like it was not hard to do. You know, I look around and I see all these leaders in positions, and they're doing amazing things of transforming people's lives and like impacting people, and they're young. So I'm like, man, like you don't have to be old and like, you know, almost close to retirement to get yourself in a position where you can make some respectable income. And, you know, I think I benefited because I was at the right place and right time and right organization with the right people, where I was able to just look back and see like this is a good example for me, you know, and, you know, just going through that process. So like my first month, you know, if I remember, I think I did like 12,000 in premium, which made me like a $6,000 paychecks, you know, somewhere around there, right?
Immediately.
Oh, wow. Which this is what happened. Like I was making like 3,000 a month, my first position out of college, and I thought I was balling then because that was more money than my mom ever made. Yeah. And I'm doubling that. I'm like, what? So, I mean, of course, when you're young, you're stupid, you don't have many responsibilities, people depending on you, you're going to be a little reckless. So I went out, like I said, I popped some bottles and wasted some money like I shouldn't have done, you know. But this is my rookie year, like rookies do, just blowing money, right? But, you know, I started to make a little bit of money. You know, in my first 4 months, I was able to write enough business where I qualified for the annual company convention. And in that period of time, I remember getting that 1099, and I made more money in that 4-month period than what I made in my previous 12 months, you know, and that was like eye-opening for me. I qualified for convention, and a few months after that, I was able to go to convention. So I'm seeing people outside of this office, which I didn't even realize. I literally got drafted at the top team in the whole entire company. Mm-hmm. So like all I had to really truly do is be a student. And I was so blessed, like I said, right place, right time with the right people. You know, I was able to I had to get myself in those doors of getting the right mentorship because that's necessary. And I was able to, you know, rub shoulders and cross paths and, you know, create friendships with people who I had something in common with. Like, you know, we came up through the same type of struggle growing up. We played sports, same sports. You know, Simon was a guy who I really leaned on of, you know, show me the way, you know. Nothing against my field trainer, Alex. Yeah, I'm shouting out everybody because I remember, man, like it was yesterday. You know, Alex, man, he showed me how to hustle, like for sure, how to like make sure you're not wasting time when you're out in the field. But I leaned on Simon because we had a lot in common of how we grew up, you know, single parent household, played football, you know, just underdog type mentality, and just, you know, where he was at, I'm like, man, I want to be like this guy. Like I never had a brother, but like that was like a guy I looked to as like my big brother, you know. It's the one that I was able to get closer to compared to the others who, you know, eventually down the road, like Marcus Smith, for example. He's a guy, man, like at the time, Marcus he pushed us, you know. I wanted to strangle him, you know. He reminded me of some of my coaches, right? But I'm so thankful for him because like he developed us, not just me, but us, to be dogs, you know. And we were operating just like your top franchise teams operate. And I didn't understand that until once I got to that annual convention. I'm like, man, I should be so thankful that this is the opportunity that I came across, because I'm telling you, if it would have been somewhere else where it didn't meet the standards that you set, because it's just like yourself, man, you Mr. Indiana. I just found that out the other day. You're so humble about that. I'm like, bro, I didn't know you were Miss Indiana. So like, you come from being the best football player in the state. You go to top football school, not just in this state, in the country. Opportunity in the league, all that stuff. Like, you have a different standard for things. And they met those standards. So I was so blessed, man. It was right place, right opportunity with the right people. And all I had to do was just do the work, you know. But I made more money my first 4 months than what I made my previous 12 months. And then I made my first full year, I made just over 70. Then my second year, I made my first 6-figure.
Wow. Let's talk about that. I know a lot of times when it comes to talking about the athletes, first I want to hit on a lot of the language you're using is athletic language, be a dog and all this stuff. So it sounds like this is a space for business athletes.
Right.
It's a space that allows the athlete to get into business and be able to excel. But one of the things you just hit on, so 6 figures, most times that's what it comes down to. It's all about the money. Right. That's why a lot of athletes get into sports. I want to be able to take care of my family. Right. I want to make sure I got the money to take care of self. Right. So how did it feel to get your first 6 figures? A lot of people don't see 6 figures hit the account. So what was that feeling for you?
You know what? This is what ends up happening. You go from eating ramen noodles to you know, now you buying steak dinners, right? You start to upgrade your lifestyle, you know. And if I was going to give anybody advice, you know, as you start to make more money, I don't mean you need to just automatically just start buying more stuff that costs more money. No, man, like be smart with your money, because you're gonna waste money on things that it's not going to give you a good return of investment of how you're investing in it or spending the money. But you know, I blew more money than what I should have, you know, on things, buying stuff I shouldn't have bought, you know, just, you know. But I wasn't that stupid. But going back, you know, it's not about what you make, is what you can keep from what you make, and then be able to reinvest it to have that thing make more money for you and all that stuff. So I wasn't the smartest with my money. I really wasn't. But I got smarter over time, and you know, it was one of those milestones, because, you know, when you go from, you know, making, you know, the kind of money I was making before the opportunity.
Ramen noodles.
Yeah, right. And, you know, that's supposed to be, you know, you made it, right? You made it into the league once you start making a 6-figure income. That was the mentality we had, you know, because think about it, man. I mean, back then, you know, you making it into the league, you're not guaranteed 7 figures. But I mean, for sure making 6. And today,
a lot of times, just from like playing professionally, a lot of times the family, the friends, they see what you go make on that base income. Yeah. They might see, I mean, even as a vet, it might say $1 million base, but that's paid over the course of playing. So if you got a 17-week period, If you only played 1 week, you only go get compensated for that week.
Right.
So that whole base you see didn't pay out. So a
Right.
lot of athletes aren't making 6 figures simply because they're not staying on the roster long enough to actually be able to receive the payment thereof. So,
Right.
I mean, you hit on a good point with that. So 6 figures, that's not slight at all.
No, it's not, and I mean, it's a milestone, but once you get there, you're like, I want more, especially when you're around people doing more,
Right.
and they show you that it's possible. So I'm like, that was just milestone, stepping stone. We thinking bigger around here. We got more to go and achieve, So, I set a goal. I remember sitting at my mom's kitchen table once I came to that crossroads of, okay, what are you gonna do with this opportunity? You gonna keep flirting with it, or you're gonna marry this thing? I was 2 months in, and when I decided to marry after comparing and contrasting, and it was way more positive over here compared to if I did get in the league, I'm all in, right? And I was able to see what was possible, and what I could do with the opportunity because of the good example that I had. So what I ended up doing is I set big goals to make a 7-figure income, and
so let's talk about that.
I was trying to accomplish that, sooner than what I did, but I was trying to treat it just like I got in the league, because it's like, okay, if you get in the league, how you gonna handle it, right? You get that opportunity, you get drafted. If you really trying to make it, and you this is what you've been working hard for, you're not gonna let that thing slip through the crack. You're gonna try and do everything you got to do. You're gonna be the first one in the building, last one to leave, first one in, last one out, right? Doing everything, being coachable, like. You're gonna not take anything for granted, right? So I thought to myself, like, if that happened to me, how would I have treated if the Browns gave me an opportunity? I ain't blowing it. Like, I don't care what you got going on. And usually guys who come from these spoon-fed environments, they don't appreciate the opportunity as much as a kid that don't come from that environment. So, I try to treat it the same way as if I did get that opportunity in the league. And like I said, man, I was blessed, man, that I had a good example of what was possible. The young people doing something I'd never seen. And it's not even about the kind of money that they were making. It was the people. That was the first time I've ever been exposed to millionaires and people who were doing things at that level. But I was impressed with the character, the people, the type of people that they were. And I think people are attracted to opportunities because of how much money you can make. People stay because of who you become, and the character that you start to form, right? So that was priceless for me, man. But I mean, I don't remember the original question, but what I
no, totally fine. So so it's the becoming, the character, it's the right people at the right time. A lot of that played into the factor of where you at. But let's talk. I know we talked earlier in the introduction just about the bomb, about being able to see the $1 million on the 1099, right? A lot of times, even professionally, $1 million might be on your contract, but $1 million not hitting your account because, of course, it's a W-2 space, right? But how was that moment? Many people have the visions, the hopes, the dreams to be able to have $1 million. So what exactly did that mean to you and your family, and even your legacy at that moment in time?
I was under the age of 30, right? And, I think, people who have aspirations of wanting to say that, I'm a millionaire, I made $1 million. I mean, it's more pride than anything else, and ego. And I definitely had a lot of that for sure. So, I mean, it doesn't make you a better person. It really doesn't, and usually when you get to that stage, you don't even have time to sit around and think about, like, how did I get here? I can't believe this is happening. Like, wow, right? No, it wasn't that kind of party. It was, okay, because listen, here's the reality. Like, income, the law of compensation, it's all about how many people can you serve. It's a direct correlation. And the more people you serve, the more compensation you're going to achieve, right? So, you got a lot of problems that need to be solved, and the more problems you solve, the more compensation you receive. So I didn't even have the luxury to think about, like, what was happening, because I got these problems I got to solve. I got these people I need to serve, and, we got these things that we got to do. So I wasn't really too wrapped up in, the number per se, but, it it was a moment where it was a brief moment of me being able to, you know, just reflect on, man, like I actually achieved this. So it was like one of those reassurances of what's possible, you know. But again, like I said, man, I had a lot of examples of that. So, you know, having that, you know, reassurance, you know, you kind of almost, especially when you have goals, you know, you thinking bigger. So it's like you want more. You know, once you get it, it's like, okay, I want more. You know, that's the key. But going back, man, like I said, it's not about what you make; it's what you can keep and reinvest.
For sure.
You know, so I would have tried to be a little bit smarter with, you know,
how you handled all your money when
my
you got
operational cost of things and all that good stuff.
So yeah, so I mean $1 million is monumental, but of course you make a great point. You got to be financially responsible with the money when you do get it. When you do get it, right? Got to take stewardship over that. But let me ask you this. So most importantly, we retired at the age of 37 years old.
Yeah.
What exactly in the business allowed you to retire at such a young age? How was you able to reach that?
You know, once I did my homework in the very beginning, prior to marrying this opportunity, I was able to come to the realization that residual income is like, you're not going to find this type of residual income in any other industry. You know, people like to try and compare the residual income, the money you can make residually through real estate. It's not the same. You know, it's really not the same because you're comparing two different, it's like apple to oranges. You know, in this thing, right, you're getting paid every single time someone is making their monthly premium payment for a lifetime, however long they're paying on that policy. And think about how long somebody's going to pay on it. It's a lot longer than a mortgage. For
a lifetime.
You think about life expectancy, once the average person get it, how long they're paying on it. And if I went into real estate, I'm only getting paid a commission one time. And if I own real estate, I can get compensated for, you know, the difference between what it costs to pay for this property that I own and what I profit there. But it's really no comparison because it's when you think about how many people exist that need, like in my mind, I'm like, everybody need it because everybody do need it. Who's not going to die?
Right.
Everybody's going to die. Who family could be in a better situation when you compare what it costs to take care of the things that's gonna, the bills, the bill's not going away. He's gonna have a dad bill and a mom bill, and there's a burden that could potentially be left behind, you know. And it's the product, you can do so much with it. So I'm like, knowing that, man, you can do so much with the product, like it's the demand is there. I'm like, okay, like it's no limits to like what you literally could do with this product, with the industry. And I mean, I would say that's probably the biggest thing, you know. I was able to like see it, you know, when it comes to just you know, looking at, you know, where could this go? What can I do with it? You know?
Understood.
But I would say that's it. That's
so with life insurance, you get money that's passively coming in every single month.
Right.
And how long is this paying out?
For lifetime. To the policyholder can't pay.
So that's
as long as they have their policy, which, you know, they're not canceling like it is with property and casualty, right, car insurance, health insurance.
Wow.
Because, you know, the cost of it goes up. You know, you become uninsurable, you can't get it, and you know, you don't typically keep your policy. So you're getting paid every single time they make their premium payment. So
wow. Okay.
Once I understood that, I was like, okay, but that's really what it's all about. I'm able to build a book of business that can pay me over a lifetime. So you have to go into the opportunity with the end in mind. If you know what you want when it's all said and done, and you can control that, which you can in this industry for sure, then it's all about, okay, I got to build that book of business by the time I can get this thing accomplished. And I wanted to do it at 40, but opportunity presented itself. I was able to retire at 37, you know, and it's a blessing, man, because you won't ever do anything by yourself. I mean, especially when you get to those type of levels of generating that level of premium, you know. I couldn't have wrote that by myself. I didn't have that much time, you know. So I took the route of I'm gonna build something around here where you can do so much more with people versus trying to do it all by yourself. And you know, I took advantage of the opportunity. They're gonna pay me extra commissions, residual income, you know, for lifetime. Once I fully invested. So you
built a team and you built an agency, and you had it here in Indiana, right?
Yeah. So before I came to Indiana, you know, I had a team I built, you know, for 3.5 years, you know, in Ohio. And when I came here, I had to start from scratch. So it wasn't like I took my team that I built in Ohio with me. I'd start from scratch again, but I was confident because I was able to do it there, and I'm looking at this market and opportunity here. I'm like, man, this is untapped. So we were able to do some special things, man. Like being a minority in this state, in this space, like I built the biggest, there's nobody else who I know in the state of Indiana that was able to write more business in my tenure than what I wrote in that same period of time.
Wow.
We were voted top workplace, best place to work. We built something very special, but when I say we, it wasn't me. It was, the people who I had around me. I was blessed to, find and have good people around me. And, we did right by the customer, serving customers and serving people first, getting them what they need. And when you take that approach of trying to like truly serve people, you can't think about the money. You serve people first, you will get compensated for doing that and focusing on that, and I think, people who want to come into this type of industry, if they come in with the wrong mentality, it's all about making money. You ain't gonna make that much money. I mean, I used to tell people all the time, like, if you think this is about sales, it's about serving, because you can only be successful a fraction of the percentage of the time if I'm just trying to sell. But if I'm trying to serve, I can be successful 100% of the time. So it's like you have a change in your mindset, your approach to things, and I wasn't able to do it by myself, just put it that way. It was because I was surrounded by a lot of people who helped me get there. And, but, I did right by these individuals. And, one thing I'm proud of, man, I'm so proud of, people are like, how much money you make? I made more money in this industry than what I would have made if I would have got the opportunity to play the position I played in the NFL. But what I'm most proud of, man, when I think about the people who worked with me, I can say, and I got receipts if anybody want to check it. People of all the people who worked with me that's made over $1 million in their career, my top person who I was able to bring into this industry and transform and change their life, they'd made over $40 million in their career.
Oh, wow.
When I think about like all the people,
million.
like
that's a big time contract.
But think about like you impacted that person, you put them onto the opportunity, and this is where their life is now. And it's not even them. It's like you got generations that are impacted, and that's that's the power of the opportunity. And I think people take it for granted. Like the founder of the company where I started, he talked about that. It's like somebody took a shot with me to give me the opportunity, and it's like I felt indebted to like, man, I got to pay this thing forward. So, when I think about the people, lives that are changed, man, and going back to what I said, one thing that I'm so proud of is, of all the people who've made over $1 million, that list of, because I keep track of this stuff, because I like to see where people are at, what they've done and what they've accomplished. They've made over $100 million plus, these individuals. And that's not the people who haven't even hit that yet. I'm just talking about the people who've made over $1 million plus, working. Wow. And at some point in time, that worked with me. And, I'm only 41, and that's one of the things that I'm most proud of how many people were able to make, really good money, who's still doing very well to this day, man. Lives that are transformed. You're able to see people come from, young and wet behind the ears like I was, and now they have families, they have kids, lives are completely different. They're impacting different communities around me. Man, it's crazy. It's crazy. But I would have never had the opportunity if I went to the league. I can't control my destiny like that. Can I put my boy on? Yeah. Like, hey, I played with him in school. Can I put him on? No, that ain't happening. Think about it, right?
Yeah,
so I think it's like, you got to have this perspective of what type of vehicle do you truly have. And I didn't understand it at first. If I would have known it was insurance, I would have ran away from it. But I'm so thankful that, God, put the right people, right, opportunity right there in front of me to just take advantage of. And, you ain't getting nowhere like that without being around a lot of good people who can help you go there, so that's the byproduct. You focus on serving, man, that's the outcome.
Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, that's a lot to unfold, truly. I mean, at the end of it ended up turning into about the service, right? There's life far more after just sports, right? Football is an identity, right? But you can do many things that you developed in a sport to be able to service others. And it's about how do you service humanity now? And I think you was rewarded for that, and you actually were able to impact a lot of other lives. So let me ask you this. So what would you say to the athletes at home that didn't get drafted, didn't necessarily make it to the league, that got injured perhaps and are literally waiting on that next call of what's next, what would you necessarily encourage a guy, or why would it be good for an athlete to be able to join this industry and space?
So this is what I'll tell you. Never stop betting on yourself. You've always betted on yourself. Like, you believe that, man, I'm good enough. I got what it takes to make this roster, to be a starter, to potentially get to the league, like, and you willing to do the work. Take that same mentality into a new vehicle. Don't confuse vehicle with identity. And that's the issue that I think, most athletes struggle with. It's, we wrap ourselves into a vehicle and we create this identity, and that's who we become. That's what we know. And that's what that's all we believe, that this is what I can do. So, like, forget the identity. You're bigger than just being a football player. You're more than an athlete, right? That's what they say. It's not about, like, I'm a football player. No, it's you are who you are no matter what. It's a vehicle. So if you decided to try and use football as your vehicle because you knew the opportunity that presented itself, because you see other people in the league getting these type of contracts, making this kind of money, living this lifestyle, doing certain things and whatnot, and you're like, okay, that could be me. And you willing to do what it takes to get there, you're betting on yourself. Take that same energy and do it in the vehicle that will give you the same opportunity, if not more. That's what I would say, is like, never stop betting on yourself. Never stop being willing to do what's required in order to get to where you want to go. Never lose sight of your vision, of the vision you have for your life and what you want to do in life. And as long as you have goals, you take it one step at a time, but you got to have an action plan, because as long as you have an action plan, you're willing to pay that price. And the kicker is, you get around people who will show you the way. So you got the mindset, you got the will set, you need the skill set, and the people are going to show you the way in the process. Take advantage of that. Like, be a student all over again. Treat it the same way you would have treated if you got that opportunity in the league. Be a student, work, grind, right? And like, approach it. Understand that you have a lot of, when I say a lot of intangible skills that you don't even know will pay you a ton of money in the right vehicle. So it's like, this vehicle, listen, I'm biased because, listen, I'm 41. I've been retired for 4 years now. Like for real, it's crazy. And I have the luxury of being able to, I can control my time. I got the finances to do certain things, and I would have never thought this was possible outside of being a professional athlete. And listen, when I wrote this book, it was simply to prove to people, if I can do it, you can do it too. Like you said earlier, man, I ain't played D1, I ain't get drafted, but I was able to have enough common sense to know that this vehicle can pay you. And I was blessed I was in an environment that was proof that, man, all I got to do is this and I can be just like that, but again, man, you can become more than just, somebody who can make a lot of money in this, and you can truly transform and become the best version of yourself. And that's what I was interested in, and why I chose to continue to stay doing what I was doing for the 14 plus years. And, just at the end of the day, just going back to the original thing, man, is just bet on yourself. Never stop betting on yourself, that no matter what's going on around you, because this opportunity is out there. And I don't personally know a better opportunity out there than financial services. So that's what I got to say.
Yes, sir. So James, I mean, you the blueprint. You turned the dream that didn't go as planned, and you built something bigger, right, for yourself. Also, you didn't just turn to this path, you built your own path. Right. Now you're retired, you paid, you present with your family, and not only that, you're fully free. All right, so give thanks to that. Give thanks for even hopping on. For the audience that's listening, make sure you go ahead and get his book. All right, where would they be able to find your book?
You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Nobles. I would say just go that way, go that route. I mean, if you wanted to do it on a smart device, you can do it on the Apple, the Android, all that stuff, the iBooks, or whatever it's called. But it's pretty much everywhere. And you're definitely going to be able to hear and read my story, because I get very intimate in the book. And I try and open up, because I'm pretty sure there's a little boy out there growing up the same way I grew up, wondering, man, how am I going to get out of here? And I'm living testimony, man. If I can do it, you can do it too. And never stop believing in yourself, and use your unfortunate circumstances to your advantage, because somebody told you your unfortunate circumstances are unfortunate, but they're not, you know, and you know, you can do it. You can do it.
Truly. So make sure you get a copy. This is the copy right here. Also follow him. What's your name on Instagram?
JCIII. JCIII.
Yeah. So make sure you go ahead and follow him. Right, it's a lot of wisdom here. Make sure you tap in, be able to follow him and subscribe to him to be able to hear and learn more. Also, click the link in the description here. Join the squad. You don't have to wait on that call that may never come. You can use that same mindset, that same grind, and build something that outlives the game. Because the game ends, the noise fades, but legacy, that's on you to secure. Right, so my question, right, are you ready for win? If win is tomorrow? Good, thanks, man. Glad for.
Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate
Thanks for
you.
having me on, for real.
Yes, sir. Good, thanks.